Well, the difficult thing this time is it's not just our movie anymore. It's owned by the entire audience, and there are expectations that we didn't have last time. I mean, last time no one really knew what the movie was about. Nobody knew the characters. We could do anything we wanted. We could make Shrek do something and change his character. Now we can't. Now we have to be true to who the characters are. And because thankfully the first movie was very successful, there's a very high level of expectation. I mean, there's not a kid that I see that doesn't ask me about Shrek 2, when it's coming out, what it's about, what it's like.
The one thing I will say is we didn't want to make something bigger. You know, every time you see a sequel, it's always the same thing but bigger, and what we wanted to do was make something that was very different than the first movie. So we set out, Andrew came up with a story, Andrew Adamson, that was a really great basis for a story that was very different than the first film. It widened the scope of their world a lot. And we had a lot of areas to play in that we didn't have before.
When Jeffrey first came to me to ask me about doing a sequel, I realized we'd painted ourselves into a corner. We'd let Shrek and Fiona get married, which was, in retrospect, well, at the time I thought was a huge mistake, because it would have been very easy to make a movie about somebody trying to stop them getting married. But interestingly enough, it created a whole new story for us and created a whole new problem. And when I was thinking about it, I started thinking, okay, what happens after marriage? And there's the idea that you don't just marry your spouse, you marry their whole family. And then there was this whole other story, which interestingly coincides with how we're feeling about making the movie, which is the story about expectations. We knew what Fiona's expectations were from the first movie. She expected to meet Prince Charming and live happily ever after. We never dealt with what were Shrek's expectations. Why did Fiona have those expectations? What were her parents' expectations?
They go to a new place, so there's going to be a lot of new characters along the way. We have Puss in Boots, who becomes the sidekick. He tries to elbow his way in between Shrek and Donkey as the brand new sidekick, and Donkey doesn't like this at all. So there's a little sidekick rivalry going on between the two of them. There is Fiona's parents, of course, the King and Queen of Far, Far Away. They're kind of like the Beverly Hills image-conscious types who, you know, dress the right way and act the right way and look the right way, and everything's perfect until you get under the surface, obviously, and see that there are, you know, a few little stresses and problems there that they have to deal with. There's the fairy godmother, of course, who's Fiona's fairy godmother, who is a lot more than she seems as well.
Even the ones that are returning, though the same character designs are there, they don't have as many limitations. They don't have as many roadblocks. They're more flexible. They've got more ability, facial ability. Their joints, their fingers, everything moves more. Their eyebrows, their nostrils, their ears, everything has a little more articulation than the last film. We really tried hard to really make them move as much like people and as realistically as possible, so that you had that broad range of expression and acting that you would have with real actors. And I think that whereas the first Shrek, there was a real sense of heightened reality about it, I think this film takes it that much further. There's new lighting techniques, more detailed lighting techniques. The art direction is more intricate and more detailed in such a way that it's able to present a picture that is more realistic, and you can almost walk into this movie.
It's hard to do a sequel because, you know, the big trap is that you're going to just repeat yourself and kind of cover the same territory, and that was probably the biggest challenge. The best thing about it is that we knew right away the tone of the film. You know, we discovered all that doing Shrek and the kind of comedy it was. So going in, you know, it was in some ways easier because we knew we could be funny all the time and we could be really outrageous and entertaining. But we wanted to really try to tell a different kind of story, and it's a very different story. The first one was very sort of simple and straightforward, and this one's it's pretty complex. There's a lot of twists and turns in it. But it is a challenge to just to try to take those characters and really give them a new adventure that's kind of as big as the first one.
One of the things that we liked to do in the first one, which we are working to do on the second one also, is to have as much richness overall as well in color as in kind of alternate gags or second or third or fourth level gags in the background. Because I think one of the things that made also the success of Shrek, because there is tons of stuff in it that you don't necessarily see the first time you go and see it. So we pushed, and we have tons of things everywhere to look at. In every locations there is kind of different level gags that you don't see the first time if you just look at the movie. Even some of them you have to pause the movie. When the DVD will be out, you will have to pause the DVD to stare and look.
We wanted to add more history to certain things so it didn't feel quite as CG, see if we could improve that. More of a natural kind of feel, more of a lived-in kind of feel, more of a history, which is more like adding life to the film, so that people don't feel so much that it's CG. I mean, they obviously know it's a CG film, but you really want to make them forget that they're watching a CG film and just feel like they're in another world. So you take it from ground level, the modeling itself and how complex you can go with the model, then to the surfacing department where you start to add the base color to it and some of the texturing to it, and then you go into set dressing it with rocks and boulders and twigs, and you have to design everything that goes in there. You have to figure out where the dirt patches go so that it feels natural but still has a sense of design about it.
In Shrek 2 we have even more environments. Traditionally Shrek is a road movie. The first one was, the second one is also. Now we expanded the world, and in fact we made a map. We have a map of the world related to Shrek 1. Where is the Dragon's Keep, where is Duloc, and where is the next kingdom far, far away. Fiona and Fiona's parents, the king and queen, are far, far away. So where is far, far away? Where is the house of the fairy godmother? And all of those things are mapped, so we know if you look east, west, north, south, you know exactly where you are.
But you do your boards, you get everything worked out. What are you doing with the camera? What are the characters going to be doing? And you get it all figured out, and then you schedule a pitch, and you take your boards down. Everybody comes into a room, and you perform it. You try to perform it to the same amount of time that would be on the screen. If you can, you put different character voices in it, and just really try to sell the idea, and give everyone watching as close an experience to watching a movie as you can. Under that situation, and then usually they'll tell you, it stinks, and go redo it. And you get a big boatload of volume of notes, and you go back, you do it again, you come back, there's less notes, less notes.
The greatest thing about what we do is the ability to make the movie before you make the movie. And in 15 months, I believe we screened our movie 12 times. And that's just on storyboards, drawn, cut together with sound effects and the actors' voices and music. And each time we do that, a group of very smart people sit there and tear it apart and put it back together and say what works, what doesn't work. And as a filmmaker and a storyteller, there is no comparison between this process and anything else I've ever done in live action. It gives you it's a tremendous gift to be able to watch the movie and make sure you know what movie you're making before you commit really a single penny to the production of that story.